Liberal TV host mocks Barron Trump. Her response shocks the audience. The studio buzzed with low murmurs of anticipation as cameras adjusted their focus. Stage lights shone a little too brightly, casting an almost theatrical glow over the polished set. Seated across from Barron Trump was Sophia Grant, a seasoned TV host known for her sharp-witted interviews. With a composed posture and a tailored suit, Barron exuded a quiet confidence. Though young, he carried an undeniable presence, a blend of resilience and the weight of expectation tied to his last name. At first, the conversation flowed smoothly. They discussed politics, culture, and the pressures of growing up in the public eye. But then, Sophia, ever the strategist, made her move. Her gaze sharpened, and with a measured pause, she struck. "Take it off." The words cut through the air like a blade, sharper than the studio lights. The audience, mid-breath, froze. Barron's eyes locked onto hers, unwavering and calm, as his fingers instinctively brushed the small cross pendant resting against his chest. Sophia leaned forward, her tone neutral but laced with challenge. "You talk about unity and inclusivity, but isn't that necklace a symbol of exclusivity? A declaration of division?" The silence was deafening. Even those who usually champion Sophia's bold questioning shifted in their seats, sensing this wasn't just a debate. It was a demand. Barron didn't flinch. He didn't rush to answer. Instead, he let the moment settle, allowed the weight of her words to linger. But before he could speak, the energy in the room had already shifted. This wasn't really about a necklace. It was something much deeper. The thick silence stretched long enough for the hum of overhead lights to become audible. The cameras zoomed in, catching every micro-expression, every flicker of reaction. The audience, normally quick to chuckle or murmur in agreement with Sophia, now hesitated, unsure whether to side with her demand or recoil at the blatant challenge. Barron sat firm. One hand rested lightly on the silver cross pendant that had unexpectedly become the interview's focal point, while the other remained on the armrest, fingers relaxed, betraying none of the tension hanging in the air. Sophia didn't smile. She wasn't the type to waver, nor was she the type to back down. Leaning in, she repeated herself, this time, her voice controlled, smooth, but firm. "Take it off, Barron." This time it wasn't just a statement. It was an order. The audience shifted again, a few casting uneasy glances at one another. Challenging someone on policy, opinions, or even family history was one thing. But this was different. Barron exhaled slowly, still not responding, still letting the weight of the moment settle. He let her words linger, allowing them to fill the room. Sophia picked up on it. The waiting, the patience, and she didn't like it. She thrived on control, on steering the direction of a conversation. But right now, Barron was doing something she hadn't anticipated. He wasn't flustered. He wasn't defensive. He wasn't reacting. So, she pressed harder. "Come on," she continued, tilting her head slightly, her voice dancing between amusement and challenge. "You're a public figure now, whether you like it or not. You talk about open-mindedness, about understanding different perspectives, but that necklace? It's a symbol of a belief system not everyone in this country shares. Do you really think it belongs on a national stage?" She let the words settle, confident they would land the way she intended. It was a classic rhetorical strategy. Corner the guest, force them to acknowledge a contradiction, frame them as hypocritical. It had worked countless times before. But Barron still didn't flinch. He blinked once, slow and deliberate, before finally speaking. "I appreciate the concern, Sophia."
His voice was calm.
Measured. Almost too calm. It threw her off, just for a half-second. And the cameras caught it, the brief flicker of uncertainty in her eyes. Then, Barron leaned in slightly, mirroring her stance. "Are you actually uncomfortable with my necklace, or with what it represents?" A quiet gasp rippled through the audience. Sophia blinked. It was a small reaction, but on live television, even the smallest hesitation was magnified. Barron's gaze stayed steady. "You say this is about inclusion, that it's about understanding different perspectives. So help me understand, why does my faith make you uncomfortable?" She hadn't expected that. Sophia opened her mouth then closed it. She didn't like being on the defensive. She never had to be. That wasn't how these interviews worked. She leaned back, buying herself a moment, then forced a tight smile. "This isn't about your faith," she said smoothly. "It's about the message it sends." Barron raised an eyebrow slightly. "The message it sends?" Sophia nodded. "Public figures shape public culture, Barron. You know that better than anyone. And symbols like that," she gestured toward the cross, "send a message of exclusivity. They suggest that one belief system holds more weight than others." Barron listened carefully, nodding as she spoke. When she finished, he waited a beat before answering, making it clear he wasn't reacting emotionally. He was considering. Then finally he spoke. "Interesting," he said, tone thoughtful. "So, if someone wore a rainbow pin on the stage, would you ask them to take it off?" A sharp inhale rippled through the audience. Sophia's expression barely changed, but Barron caught it. The shift in her posture, the slight straightening of her back, the way her fingers flexed against the cue cards in front of her. She knew she had just walked into a trap. "That's different," she said, her tone cooling. Barron tilted his head. "Is it?" Another murmur spread through the audience. Sophia exhaled through her nose. "This isn't about other symbols, Barron. It's about power dynamics. For centuries, Christianity dominated Western culture. People were forced to conform. Now, we live in a more diverse society. Isn't it time we made space for everyone, instead of clinging to old traditions?" Barron studied her. Then, with deliberate motion, he lifted the necklace slightly between his fingers. "You say this is about power," he said, voice quieter now. "But you're the one asking me to take it off." The room went completely still. He let the words hang. He didn't need to say more. The contradiction spoke for itself. Sophia's expression remained composed, but something in her eyes flickered. Annoyance? Frustration? She knew what was happening. He was flipping the dynamic. He wasn't getting angry. He wasn't defensive. He was staying calm, deliberate, unshaken. And in doing so, he was exposing the flaw in her argument, without ever having to raise his voice. And just like that, the power shift had begun. And the audience? They could feel it.